All right. Okay, well, I'm Len Koppl K0DRC, and I realized from moderating the Flex forum that a lot of people do a lot of things on Flex radios a very difficult way. And it's mostly just because there's too many things to know, and it's too hard to have that all in your head all at once all the time. So for this training, what I'm going to do is go through virtually everything in the radio, not so that you get a deep understanding of everything and have everything memorized. That's just not going to happen. But so you at least see everything so that it won't be foreign to you when you actually get on and use the club station. All right, so let's start off with what is an SDR radio? Well, that just stands for Software Defined Radio. And here is a block diagram of a Flex 8000, which is not what the club has, but it's still appropriate to what we're doing. Does my cursor show? Yeah. So if you look at a Flex radio, it is mostly computer. It is not mostly radio stuff. So let's look at it starting at the antenna and then coming out the internet. So you start off with an antenna on one of these ports, doesn't matter which one. Then there's some switching that happens. And then it goes into an SCU. That stands for Spectral Capture Unit. And it's just a term that has come up with software-defined radios to indicate what is really the front end of the radio. So the front end of this thing has a bandpass filter. Then it has a set of preamps and a attenuator. And from there it goes into an ADC, so more TLAs. Who knows what a TLA is? Three-letter acronym, right? So this three-letter acronym is an ADC, which is analog to digital converter. So this thing takes roughly 30 kilohertz to 54 megahertz. So think of that range, right? 30 kilohertz to 54 megahertz, and that is all feeding from the antenna into this converter. What comes out of this converter is a set of numbers, just numbers. And each number is associated with an amplitude and a place on the frequency spectrum. Okay, so
zoom that a bit bigger since I see the outline of the screen. I'm not sure.
here I can do it. I can do it from here, Mark. How's that?
Getting better. You still got lots of screen. Can you expand
Well,
expand the
okay.
actual
Yeah,
frame?
I don't think that works. I don't know.
Or isn't it?
Okay, let's just keep going.
Okay.
So from the ADC, then all these numbers that represent a frequency and what is the amplitude at that frequency, right? So think of it as 1 hertz bins. It's probably something different than that, but for ease of discussion, every hertz has an amplitude. If it's noise, it might be minus 130 dBm. If it's a signal, it might be minus 73 dBm. Does anybody know what the significance of minus 73 dBm? S9, that's an S9 signal, all right? So from there, all those bins with their appropriate amplitude go into something over here called the FPGA, which is a field programmable gate array. And what that is an array of hardware that can be, and it's all different kind of gates, whatever you want, that can be software controlled. So you can build a computer out of an FPGA. You can just tell it how to hook all the gates together and make it a computer, and people do that. In this case, what Flex has done with it is turn it into a digital signal processor, a DSP. So this digital signal processor then provides the demodulation of the signal. It provides the pan adapter, the waterfall, and all that kind of stuff. and then it sends whatever information it needs onto the CPU down here, where the CPU packages everything up and sends it out through the LAN or the WAN to your computer, where you're running SmartSDR, and SmartSDR then takes that information and makes it something that you can see. So let me change my screen sharing here. Oh, it didn't do it. Oh, there it goes. All right. So this is SmartSDR. This is what you would run if you're going to run the club station. One other thing to note in that block diagram that I showed you, there were no VFOs, no local oscillators, no mixers, no IF stages. None of that, not one bit. That's all done in the software in the radio. And not so much done on SmartSDR. SmartSDR is your interface to the radio, but all the heavy lifting, everything that happens radio-wise, happens in the software in the radio. So this radio is really a server. So think of the radio as a server. Everything is connected to it via, or everything that is connected to it via Ethernet is a client. So this is a client, right, which is SmartSDR, and a Maestro, if you had a Maestro, that's a client. And it's a special kind of client called a GUI client, and that's because it is giving you the graphical user interface that you need to operate the radio. So this thing, SmartSDR, brings back your audio, displays the pan adapter and the waterfall. This question came up earlier today. How many, excuse me, I need to get this where I can read it. There we go. Only 2 clients can be on at the same time when using something called multiplex. We'll talk more about multiplex later. It allows 2 people to be on the same radio at the same time, but I'm not going to recommend that we do that. And I'll tell you all about that in a little bit. Everything else that connects to the radio is a non-GUI client. So there's something called CAT, computer-aided transceiver, that you're familiar with other radios. Something called DAX, which is a digital audio exchange that's unique to Flex. And those things are also clients. Any logger that you use, I use the N3FJP AC log. That's a client that connects directly to the radio, so it's kind of cool. There are a bunch of other general utilities, one called FR Stack for Flex Radio Stack, gives you some additional things that SmartSDR does not give you. There's the utilities I wrote plus some others. There's the digital control programs, things like WSJTX if you want to run FT8, MMTTY if you want to run RTTY, so forth. All those things are non-GUI clients. An unlimited number of these things can be connected at the same time. And generally speaking, so this is the one where people get confused and trip themselves up. Clients only talk to the server, i.e. the radio, not among each other. So people are always trying to get something to communicate with SmartSDR. Well, your other applications don't talk to SDR, they talk directly to the radio. So any questions on that? Because that gets confusing sometimes. Okay. All right. Then, oh, that's my fault. Oh,
That's Claude.
okay. All right. So any radio commands that are sent from any of these clients, so from SmartSDR or any of the others, are sent over Ethernet using TCP, using something called the Flex API, which is the application programming interface. So it's not using, generally speaking, CAT commands like you're used to with other radios. The real-time data, so the audio, the meter data, the pan adapter, waterfall, that's all sent also over using the API, but using a different protocol.
So what's the modulation on the far right before it rolls off?
I don't know. I see that all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's something off, here, I can show you, you can go back and look at
The
it.
Russians?
Who knows? But this is some kind of digital stuff that's not in the ham band.
Oh, is it outside the band?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's outside the ham band. It's digital. But you see how you can go back and look at stuff if you want. Okay. So a limited number of cat commands are supported by Flex for compatibility with existing software. So if you've got a logger that doesn't directly talk to the radio, you can use the cat for that, and we'll show that in a bit. All right, so let's get to the nuts and bolts here. Connecting to the club station. So the first thing you'll do is you'll download and install SmartSDR from the Flex website. So let's do that.
Switch screens or?
Nope, I've got it right here. All right, so the first thing you do is you go to flexradio.com. You enter the amateur side, believe it or not the commercial or government. You want software, SmartSDR, and you're going to scroll down. Oh, and then you're going to choose download latest version for release. And Mark will attempt to keep the SmartSDR up reasonably close to current. It is at current right now, but there'll be times when you want to upgrade. If Mark has not upgraded the radio yet, don't upgrade. The software has to match the version of the radio. All right, so you'll come down here, in this case, to SmartSDR 4. We're going to put out a whole list of things, so you don't have to memorize everything or know everything right now today. We'll never get through this today. This is going to be a good 2-hour session.
So is there a place where you're posting the current firmware, I mean, the software date version, so that if somebody is installing, they know what to go with?
Yeah, we haven't got to that quite yet. So, but that's coming. So right now, I just want to get the mechanics of how to get everything working through everybody's mind once, and then we'll put out enough information that you can get to it. Okay, so you come down here and you see file download. This all says download. You think you want to come over here. Those are just documentation. The actual one is here. You'll click on this. It'll show up here. When it drops down, you'll get it. And I don't have one here, but you'll click on it to install it. And that's it. It's installed. So it installs very much like most software that you're used to installing. But the big thing is making sure that you have the same version that the club has, and we'll definitely put information out so that everybody gets that. If you do start an upgrade, or if you do try to start this software and you get a sign that it wants to upgrade, don't upgrade. You're on the wrong version. And then either Mark or myself will be happy to help you get and run the correct version.
It's actually telling you to upgrade the radio, isn't it?
It's telling you to upgrade the radio, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah, like the Mac software gets updated all the time, and I'm not sure how good he is maintaining compatibility going backwards. So
well, so the Mac software works a little differently. There is nothing inherent in the radio that forces you to be on the same version.
yeah,
So
I'm hoping that he supports
he's doing that.
several generations, and I have
Always releasing new versions.
Yeah, but you don't have to keep
my network.
Yeah, you don't have to keep the same version number on Mac as this. SmartSDR forces that because their help desk ran amok with everybody on the wrong versions, and this one didn't work with that one, and they couldn't keep it straight. So Steve Hicks, I think, came out with a statement some years ago that's saying we're going to force that, and it just solves all the problems. So it's less convenient in a way, but it keeps everything straight. Now, if it comes time to upgrade, you do not need to uninstall a prior version, but you will want to remove the old shortcuts from your desktop. And then if you want to run Mac or iOS, then you do have to pay for those. The SmartSDR for Windows is free. All right, so now let's talk about how to actually do this. There's something called SmartLink. So I'm going to come over here and get off the radio. Oh, sorry, put it over here. Did it come up? All right. And I'm going to actually log out so that you can see this happen live. So here is what you'll get the first time that you try to log in. You'll get a SmartSDR screen, and you're going to put in the credentials that Mark will give you when you sign up to do this. Sorry, let me.
Did anybody not sign the roster?
I didn't yet.
Yeah, I know you guys up here did, so,
Yeah, we're just like that.
yeah.
All right. So now, once that happens, you will either get this screen or the next screen. It depends on how you came in and so forth. This screen is the 285 TechConnect Radio Club login. This is not your login. This is the club login. So please do not change any of the credentials on this screen. So when you get this, you're just going to click this little thing. Once you've done this a couple times, this is the screen that will normally come up, and you won't have to go through that. But the first time, you will have to go through that. And Mark will give you those credentials when the time is right. Then you're going to select this radio. It should be the only one on there. And then you're going to click Connect. And if life is good, hey, life is good.
Yeah, well, God, there's my.
Unbelievable. Okay, now access to the station is by, this is probably loaded for people to see. There's something called station down here at the bottom of the screen. And that station is your computer name converted to all caps. Now, if you want to change that for any reason, you notice this one says not Len's real station name. All right, I don't want to put my real station name out, or you could log in as me. And I'm thinking that's not a good thing. So each person will have their own station name. You'll give that to Mark, or Mark will get it off the log and put it on something called the allowed stations list. And once you're in the allowed station, then you can log into the club station. Until that happens, you're going to get a quick flash. It'll log in, it'll log right back out, and it'll say you were logged off by some other person. Oh, that other person is the software I wrote. So
Why wouldn't you put your call sign down there?
you sure could. And I'd recommend that, in fact. Put your call sign and maybe something else down there, whatever you want. You can change this so it starts off by default from Flex being your computer name converted to all caps. Why they did that, I have no idea. You can then overtype it any way that you want, hit enter, and then going forward, that'll be it. Now, once you've gotten on and Mark has put your station name in there, then you later go back and change this, then you'll get booted out again. You'll have to let Mark know, and then he can change that for you.
The login, way to tell who's using the radio if it's busy.
There is. when you first log in, it would have told me who was on there.
I'm thinking if you ID'd yourself by call sign and a phone number or email address, you could send somebody a text message.
You could.
That's using the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, it's my turn. You've been using it for 15 minutes. Your time is up.
Yeah, right.
Did you forget to disconnect?
Yeah. Yep. And the problem with this is it's not very well designed for clubs. And so we can bump each other off. There's something called multiflex that we're going to talk about in a little bit. And the problem with multiflex, it does let more than one person connect at a time, but there's only one transmitter. So coordination is critical. There's only one spectral capture unit in this thing, so that if you change antennas, RF gain, anything, it affects everybody. So if Mark's on 6 meters and I'm on 160, well, I'm not going to want any RF gain. I'm going to want attenuation. Mark's going to want a bunch of RF gain, and whoever changes it last gets it, right? Very unfriendly way to operate. So furthermore, if the transmitter is first come, first served. So if I say, yeah, VK3KW, KD0RC, go ahead, and I let off the mic, well,
Yeah.
now Mark has access, so he punches his 6 meter mic and starts calling CQ. Well, I just lost whatever the guy told me from VK land because Mark's got the transmitter, so I can no longer hear or transmit. Yes.
So that brings up a question I was gonna ask at this meeting. Could we please have some sort of sign-up list? Because if we want to make a schedule with a friend somewhere, we need to be able to tell them what time, what frequency we're gonna try and contact
Right.
them. And if somebody else is there, our schedule is
Right.
is essential. So my thing I was gonna bring up today is there a way we could set up a sign-up list?
Yeah.
for Access.
Yes, we definitely, we don't have that worked out right now, but that's absolutely what we need to do. And so among the marks here, we'll figure out a way to do that that's graceful.
You can add that to the-
Probably want it on the website, yeah. But that doesn't exist yet, but the amount of usage of the radio so far is low. Now that we're doing this, I anticipate it'll go higher, and we'll definitely work on getting a sign up going. For-
Repeat what he asked.
Well, yeah. The question was, can we have a sign up list for the radio, especially for those that might want to set up a schedule and then try to meet that schedule and can't do it because somebody else is on the radio. So the answer is definitely yes, and more to come on that
Thank you.
shortly. Yeah.
I'll get Claude working on that recent.
This is just for the computer, video, or radio connect?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you well.
Oh, is this just on a computer, or do you need a radio connected to it?
I still don't understand the question.
So
Can I
the
just do it on
software,
the computer without having a radio?
the radio is in Strasbourg.
Right.
So the software on his laptop
Right.
is talking to the radio in Strasbourg.
That's what I want to find.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
He's using the
Yeah.
church network
No, I'm using.
Wi-Fi to get
Yes,
out to Strasbourg.
I'm using mine.
The internet,
correct.
the internet.
So the term is smart link that we just saw in action there. And smart link is the mechanism by which you connect from your house, from your network to the radio. Generally speaking, I like to have a hardwired rather than a Wi-Fi connection. But lately, Wi-Fi has gotten better and better. We've been on this here for quite a while now, and it hasn't dropped or done anything squirrely. So Wi-Fi, if that's what you have, will work. If you have the ability to hardwire it, like I do at my shack, I hardwire it. But
T-Mobile 5G internet, the dropouts you would see on that screen is just mind-boggling.
Yes,
And
right.
I need a router with buffer bloat, and I haven't gotten that far because I'm having other calls, but anyway.
Yep, yep. And there are some ways to turn down the
Yeah, frame rate.
frame rate and so forth. And most importantly, this rate, which is the waterfall, you can now turn that all the way to 0. So that will help you a lot.
What did you have set at? It seems like it's really slow.
80. I like 80. That's just where I keep it.
I'm trying to remember, what's the max one?
100.
Oh, okay.
It's just a
It
percentage.
seems like it's scrolling slow, but maybe I'm just gotten used to WebSDR or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, the WebSDR ones fly by. So,
Yeah, question back.
yes, I'm sorry, I can't see through that window.
Yeah, so on that, like latency, like for like I like CW contests. So
I'm sorry, I can't hear you well.
so like latency, like say for CW contesting,
Yes.
like so is there like
So-
I'm curious of your experience or anybody who's tried that?
Okay, yeah, so the question is about latency. This goes a little past the training, but I'll just talk about that real quick, and then we can, yeah, we can talk later about it. But there is latency because it is an SDR, and there is latency because most of the latency happens over the network.
Right.
My experience in contests, which I'm not a big contester, but I do some, in DXing, it's all about the timing, and being absolutely first on the paddle doesn't always help you. And especially because this is a 100-watt and a wire radio at the moment till we get the other antenna up, this is a small gun. And so my experience is not being first on the paddle it helps you.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, we could talk more about that. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's get into the basic controls. So this is SmartSDR. I've got everything packaged together in one screen. You can split this up if you want. So the key components here are the pan adapter, which is this top part, and the waterfall. This is where you get your visual information about what's on the screen. The pan adapter is a spectrum analyzer and shows the signals in the frequency domain. So anybody that's got a 7300 is familiar with this. This is just a little bit higher resolution and higher dynamic range than what the 7300 has. So it's a nicer, easier to look at display, but the fundamentals are the same as any radio that has a pan adapter. By the way, you can show up to 7 megahertz at a time when it's fully zoomed out. Think of that, 7 megahertz at a time. All the way down to, if you zoom it all the way in, you can look at just 5 kilohertz. So you can get very fine, I keep it somewhere like this, but you can zoom it however you like. When you transmit, you will see your transmit signal right here in this blue section of the screen. Please do not infer anything from that. That just shows that you're there, and it is just the receive section of the receiver hearing what your transmitter's putting out. Even though the receiver doesn't have an antenna on it, it's still hearing whatever the transmitter's doing. So it's nice. It shows you that you're transmitting. It gives you good visual, but but you'll see spurs all over the place. Those spurs are not going out over the air. Those spurs are generated from receiver overload. So don't get concerned about that. Let's see. All right, so one of the controls that we have here is to right click. And if you right click here, you can get tune guides, create a slice, or create a TNF. We're going to talk about those 3 things later. The tune guides is only, you see how I don't have a frequency showing? If I turn on tune guides, now I have it. That's all that does. Creating a slice gives you another slice, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And then creating a TNF is something called a tracking notch filter. So if I didn't like this signal right here, I'm zoomed in too far, I can't drive it. There we go. I can block out that whole signal if I want. All right. So, and then no matter where I move or no matter where I tune, I can continue. So here's some actual junk. So let's block out something. All right. I can just get rid of that little spur right there with a TNF. So that's what that is. We'll talk more about that later. All right, to zoom this thing, you can have these little plus and minus magnifying glasses. I can zoom out, right? I'm looking at junk, you know, from 13 something. I can keep going all the way out to 7 megahertz at a time. Not very useful, but you can do it. I can zoom all the way in to 5 kilohertz. So I can look at ridiculously small amounts of spectrum at a time. For me, I like it. Oops.
And it takes a little while for the pan adapter to rebuild after it changes the span, if that isn't obvious to what's going on up there.
It does. That's what this is right down here. All right. There are also these S and B buttons. One is for subband, one is for band. If you click subband, if you're in the CW section, then it just shows you the CW piece. If you do band, it shows you the whole band. I don't find those particularly useful. I always want something in between. So I tend to use the magnifying glasses. Another way that you can zoom is by dragging the frequency line. So I can fine tune. If I wanted to get just this little extra bit over here in, I can fine tune it with that. All right, and then what I showed you earlier, you can scroll the waterfall, and I can look back, way back. All right, and then just click the live to bring it back to live.
So I didn't realize you could scroll back on the pan adapter. How far back did you go? Do you know?
Farther than I know.
Okay. That's new.
Yep. Yeah.
I never tried that.
Right. This is all the stuff that you'll
There's a
never.
lot of times I don't care. It's like.
No. And then you can also scroll the top. So I like keeping this down here somewhere, but you know, there are people who like the noise line, you know, like this. I find that hard to use, but a lot of people like that. Other people, you know, wherever you like it. You can also use these arrows up here to give you more or less expansion of the pan adapter. So I keep it so that I have roughly 10 dB increments with 5 dB markings, but not actually showing them. You can zoom this way in and get 2 dB per division kind of stuff. So this just feels right to me, so that's why I leave it there. However you like it is the way to do it. You can split the screen differently. However you know, if you like more or less waterfall. Depends a little bit on your monitor, what you will like. So again, whatever you like.
Now, these are all settings in my SDR.
These are all settings in your profile. And we're going to get to profiles in a minute. So hang on to that thought, because that's you're right on the money. You can add and delete pan adapters, which we're going to talk more about later. And then you can dock and undock them. So I have a little docking arrow here. So if you prefer to have your own little personal window for a different band, right? I can see what's going on 15 meters if I want. How cool is that? All right, I can redock that. And why the screen splits this way, I keep complaining about this as a bug. I think Flex just thinks that's the way it ought to work. But you can readjust all of these things to your taste anyway. All right, so let's talk about the slice flag. This is called a slice because it's a slice of the spectrum. And what you're listening to is what's in this little blue area here, all right? So if I've got this dragged onto a signal, that's the signal I'm listening to, what's in this. So that's why they call it a slice. It's something that just came along with the SDR revolution. But the thing to know about a slice is it's not a VFO. This receiver does not have a single VFO in it. There's no variable frequency oscillator physically present in the radio, none. So what this is an actual receiver that you can tune to any frequency within the capabilities of the radio. So
The SDR actually is receiving everything all at once, right?
everything all at once. And then it's got a filter at the front end that's so you're not looking at absolutely everything, but it's looking at the whole spectrum. Well, you saw I had 7 megahertz pulled up all at once, okay? So I'm just looking at a slice of this couple of 100 kilohertz here, whatever I have displayed, and that's why it's called a slice, but this is the receiver. Now you can have 2 of these receivers open at once, so I'm just going to right click, create slice, and wherever I clicked it, there's another one. All right, now you can have these slices in different bands, like I did just a minute ago. If you do them in different bands, you need to put them in different pan adapters because otherwise the radio doesn't know which slice belongs to which set of filters and so forth, right? So you can physically change this to some other like 10 meters or something, but it'll be off screen and then you have to get it. So if things are off screen, see how my A slice went off screen? I can always get it back by doing this. All right.
I think that's Air Force One.
Yeah, it could be. Okay.
Flex on board, I'm sure.
I got one question.
Yeah.
So I just want to listen and I have it, does it knock everybody else out if I'm on a frequency?
No, you can listen, but as soon as the other person transmits, then you don't listen, right? But we're going to recommend not having 2 people on the radio at once for various reasons. But okay. Now both of these slices, if you have 2 slices open, you can actually listen to 2 conversations at the same time. So you could have 1 slice on phone and 1 slice on CW, listen to both at once. Not that useful. On the other hand, a lot of people will run multiple instances of FT8. So they might run on 10 meters and 15 meters at the same time. And you can do that. Now you can only transmit on one or the other at a time. So there's a bunch of craziness that you have to do to make that work. I would never attempt that myself, but there are people that like that sort of thing, and that's doable.
When DX stations transmit on one frequency but listen on another, can you use that to do that?
You can, and that's called split operation, and there's a much easier way to do it. And so you can create your own slice, tune it to the station, to the place you want to transmit, change this to the transmit, and then listen to the DX over here and transmit over here, right? So I just set it up for split manually. The other thing that you can do is click the split button, and it in sideband or phone will give you a 5 kilohertz up split, which it just did. It will send it to the transmit slice, and it will make this the active slice. So now when I tune it, I'm tuning not the DX frequency, but my own transmit frequency. So it's really cool. So let's talk about that perfect segue, man, right into what is the active slice. So you see this B slice has the yellow indicator on it. If I click on the A slice, now it has the yellow indicator. The slice that has the active indicator is the slice I'm moving my mouse, all right? Or I'm double clicking, or I'm dragging, right? And if I want to change this frequency, I have to make it the active slice. Now when I move the mouse or double click or drag, it's the slice that moves. Everybody okay with that? Because I've had quite a few questions on the forum from people not understanding how to make it tune.
How do you, pick the slice again? What did you do to pick the slice you're working?
Oh, just click on, you just click on it. So if I make this, yeah, yep, I just click on it. Now, one other way that you can change frequency that I don't recommend using, but you can click on the frequency and actually type something in here. And it's in megahertz, so don't forget that decimal point or it will drive you crazy. It'll go somewhere you didn't expect. But now I just changed that to 14,300 by directly keying it in. But it's so easy to click it. I would prefer to double click, land where I want, and then use you never hit exactly where you're going to be. Then just use the mouse wheel to fine tune it where you're going to go. All right, so the four ways that you can create a slice are the one I just showed you, which is create slice here. That's the one I use because it puts it about where you want it, and then you can fine tune it where you need it. Another way is you can click the plus RX button up here, and that gives it to you just always to 5 kilohertz up or 1 kilohertz if you're in CW. So I don't find that as handy, so I don't use that one much. The other way, of course, is clicking split. And then the final way that you can create a slice is to create a new pan adapter by clicking down here to pan adapter, and now I get a new slice in that pan adapter. So many ways to do the same thing. None of them are wrong. Some of them are easier than others. All right, and then, to get rid of a slice, it's the little X in the upper left-hand corner. And there's nothing to say you have to get rid of a slice, but I tend to have one slice open. It just meets my mindset better. And you have to have only one slice open when you click split, because there's only 2 slices on this radio available. Once you've clicked split, now you see this grays out. I can't add any. It says slice limit has been reached, close the slice and try again. So I can't create slice anymore because there's only 2 on this radio.
Is there a RIP? I've never thought about
Yes.
that. So you can
We're going to talk about that.
So, okay.
Yeah,
You could do your split that way too.
I'll recommend highly against it. You can do it.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Okay, so
I've never tried it on a flex. So.
yeah, you don't need to. All right, but we're going to talk about that. So tuning, how do you tune? So I showed you a couple ways. One is double click. One is highlight this and type it. The other, the way I like the most is the mouse wheel. You click and follow up with a mouse wheel. This bandwidth indicator here, this shows you how wide you're listening. So let me zoom in a little bit. And you can see the edges of this thing are actually draggable. So I can have all kind of garbage in my bandwidth that I don't really want. So very often, especially on net day, on Sundays when I'm on the FlexNet, there's always somebody hovering over here that's splattering into our frequency. So you can just grab this, and even here, I have cut this down now to 1.8 kilohertz wide. and I'm losing the top piece of this guy's transmission, but you know what? That's going to be perfectly readable. And whatever other noise is happening just off frame here, I have eliminated. So these filters, you've heard the term brick wall filters. These are it. Where you see the edge of that line, you hear absolutely nothing to the right of it. So if there's a big carrier, which there happens to be right here, I will hear that carrier, and if I go just barely off of that carrier, it's completely eliminated.
Plus, there's no leakage around the filter,
No leakage.
like in a traditional
Right.
crystal or
Ex-
mechanical.
Mechanical, right, exactly.
They show, like, can you see the audio? Do they have like an audio scope? Like this i7-300, I can like,
No,
there is no like spectrogram of the audio. Or,
no,
I think
yeah,
when you CW, that actually kind of helps me like to see where their frequency, their side zone should be the same as mine. But
oh, well,
I was gonna say, that's a good one for him to show you how to zero beat somebody.
yeah, so let's do that real quick. Let's go to CW. And let's come down here. Here, let's zoom to something reasonable so I can get there quicker. All right. So now we're down here, so let's look at a signal here. Well, here's one that's active. All right, let's zoom in on this guy. I can get spang on. Oh, that's the other guy. See, you see these two guys, and you can see I happen to be at 400 hertz, and I can hear them both. All right.
okay, yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah, and then just by double clicking on it, you can get really close. There is something called auto tune, and I clicked auto tune, and you see how it jumped right to that one. So that does work as well.
Like the 73%.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
it's a brand new feature on Flex. They just released it, and we had to pay money for it. But hey, nothing's too good for us. All right, so let's talk about the other controls here. Here's the speaker control. These controls along here, if you click them with the left button, they open and close. If you right click this one, you can mute or unmute the audio with one click. And I do that all the time. Or you can drop it down and then right or left click to mute this. So this is the volume. You can just turn it up and down. And what's not obvious at all, and I wish they would do this different, this bottom line is the AGC. So let's take a second and talk about the AGC. This is one of the most powerful yet misunderstood controls on the whole radio. Everybody has this tendency. Crank it up, but don't, really.
Once you have this, you use AGC on all radios.
Yes.
Work like the flex.
Yes, so this doesn't work like an analog. So the reason for the AGC is not comfortable listening in your ears. That's an AVC, which is automatic volume control. And in the 40s and 50s, AVCs started to disappear, which is a real shame because the AGCs of the time, automatic gain controls, kind of fit that role. And as a result, the manufacturers just dropped the AVC. Well, now we've come full circle, and now the AGC has only one purpose, to try to keep that signal from overdriving the ADC. How is this for alphabet soup? Trying to drive if you overdrive that, everything will distort, and you'll get a pop-up message saying that you've overdriven the radio. You're not going to damage it probably, but you know, it's horrible. So the AGC is critically important, but it doesn't do much for volume. So if I've got a strong signal, like this guy's hitting S9 here, and his partner was probably hitting about S7, that you're going to hear that difference, and it's annoying. So this control is the AGC threshold, which is not the AGC per se. It is the threshold at which you start to get AGC action and at which you start to amplify the signal.
You might explain to people that AGC means the RF input, ADC is the audio output.
Correct. So if you didn't hear that, the AGC is the RF gain in, the AVC is the audio volume out to your speaker. Okay, so now this is the AGCT is in tango, AGC threshold. And the way this works is if I have it at 100, it means that my threshold for amplifying the signals, additional amplification, is way down here in the noise. So I'm amplifying all this noise as well as this signal. If I move this all the way to 0, I've turned this amplifier off and I'm just getting whatever I get from the rest of the radio. If I move this from the highest position down to somewhere typically in the 30-40 range, I will have placed the threshold just above the noise.
I really wish they put a line.
I have asked for that and
Everybody
asked for that.
has, and I don't know what the.
Yeah. What we need, what Mark's talking about is a line that would indicate where on this
You can
display.
see Right above the noise floor, for
Right.
example.
Yeah.
Because it really does.
It
quiet
makes
the
a
radio down.
Huge difference. Yeah,
You've got a strong signal, especially that you're listening to.
right. So, or a weak signal.
Yeah, well, yeah, good.
Yeah. So with this one, let's say this is it. So then you're just here. Now I'm amplifying this signal and I'm not adding any additional amplification to this noise. I'll still hear the noise, but it gets so quiet. So very often you'll hear that flex radios are very noisy. That's like hearing that a digital oscilloscope is very noisy, right? They're not. They're just seeing things that you don't see in an analog oscilloscope or radio. So you want to, the trick to this is adjust this down till the noise has a precipitous drop off. It'll kind of come down a little bit and all of a sudden it'll really drop. That's about the right place. You can move it up or down a little bit from there. And that will give you the most signal to noise.
The best way to do that now is just by ear.
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, the question was the best way to do that is by ear. And sadly, sadly true, but who knows? Now, if you're on one of the phone modes, there's another button that shows up down here called squelch. On HF, USB, or LSB, any sideband or AM, anything. This works, but it's hard to get right. It's never right because as noise bumps up and down, it's always breaking through. It's not like FM squelch, but enough people whined about this and wanted it. But I don't use it. You can use it. It doesn't hurt anything, but I don't use it. I find it. And then when somebody finally is strong enough to break squelch, they're barely breaking squelch.
I suppose if you use FM on 6 meters or using
Now on FM, it works.
yeah.
Yeah, FM is a whole nother thing. Okay, so I don't want to belabor that. All right, the DSP drop down gives you all of the noise reduction. So there's noise reduction, what they call legacy, which is really least mean squares. This one really works. This one works to a degree, but the NRL really works, but it comes at a price, and the price is that it imparts a watery sound to the signal. But if you're really suffering with some big noise, that really works great. There's the noise blanker, and the noise blanker only works on impulse noise. So for my neighborhood, this never works unless the kid down the street that has a motorbike that he built out of a lawnmower engine and recently crashed, but that's another story. When he's running up and down the street with that lawnmower engine, he's got who knows what for a spark plug wire. It's not resistor wire. And I can hear him all up. I get spikes all up and down the band. I just click that in and they absolutely go away. But it is a very, very fit to the purpose noise blanker. It won't work on anything else. So don't say that the noise blanker is ineffective. The noise blanker may be ineffective on the noise you have. So try it, and if it doesn't help, turn it off. Then we have some notch filters. So the original notch filter is here. It works, but it has a problem. The problem with it is it listens and it subtracts out the notch. So it does a great job. As soon as somebody starts talking, it has to recalculate, and the noise comes, the tone comes back. So while they're talking, you have the noise. While they're not talking, or if they're steady state, it goes away. But it keeps bouncing in and out, drives me crazy. So the new ones are the LMS, again, algorithm, which works okay, but not that great. And this one, which is the FFT, which is Fast Fourier Transform, which is just a mathematical way to get rid of that tone. And this one takes it out and keeps it out. It's wonderful. So if you're in high noise with people tuning up on you, the NRL and the ANFT together are a pretty killer combination.
So I
But
don't see TNF in that block then.
now, tracking notch filter is a TNF, and we're going to talk about that separately. I'll give you a spoiler. The TNF outdoes any other filters. And so it is a brick wall notch. Yeah, but it's a whole different, it operates in a different way. Okay, let's talk about mode. So there are 3 modes that are set here that you can select any of them. Okay, you just click the mode and it'll click. I'm zoomed so far, let me zoom back out so we get there we go. All right. But this radio has way more than 3 modes. So if it's not one of the big 3, you can come over here and select any mode that you want. So if you're operating FT8, you probably want to be on DigiU, okay, and so forth. The filters change based on what mode you're on. So you want different filters for CW? Well, you can go down to 50 hertz. And by the way, this is not your granddad's radio. 50 hertz is not going to ring like a telephone, right? 50 hertz is going to be clean and crisp and really work. This value there are ways to get this down to 10 hertz, which I have done, but I do it with an outside box. For those of you who saw the Teensy Maestro, I can actually tune that down to 10. It doesn't help. By the time you're to 50, a typical CW signal is about 100 hertz wide in the first place by the time you key it on and off. And so anything lower than 50 doesn't help. But there have been times when I have used 50 when everybody is calling on the DX frequency. And I will get the DX, and I'm operating split. I will put a 50 hertz filter on the DX station, and then those guys that are about 80 hertz away trying to call the DX on his frequency, I don't hear. And I can actually hear him come back. And I've saved some CW QSOs that way. Not in this, no. But they can be run. Yeah.
Do they have some parameters you can oh, I see it, there's like a trapezoid. I don't know if that's filtered.
It is. It's a little hard to drive. Okay, but you can click in here and spread things out. So on the CW filters, to manipulate the CW filter, you need to zoom in quite a bit. All right. And then I find it easiest just to use these. But if you had, and these follow the same rules, right? I can even do things like this, right? I can make it an asymmetrical filter if I want to. Why you would want to do that, I don't know. But you
how fast it drops, that's all.
that is,
You do have options, don't you, for
there are some options that will,
latency of the filters?
yes, yeah, we'll talk about that. Let's go there now real quick. So on radio setup filters, I recommend auto, but you can reduce latency by selecting off auto and then, you know, turn them to something else. But you lose a little latency that way if you want, but it makes the filters a little softer. So
Thank you.
pick your poison. Yeah. Okay.
No free lunch.
Now back to, yeah, that's right. Back to Mark's question. XIT and RIT. RIT is receiver incremental tuning, and XIT is transmit incremental tuning, and they can be set separately. So if you wanted to run split, you could put a big split in there. Now it's hard to see. I don't know if you can see it. There's a red line here that shows you where you're transmitting. All right. So now I'm transmitting 1,000 hertz north of where I'm receiving. And you can do split that way. But it's so easy to do split with the split function. This is something that came about years ago when people were trying to do split without a separate VFO. Some radios didn't have 2 VFOs, but they did have the ability to incrementally tune the transmit frequency, so you can use that. And it can be turned on and off, or it can be zeroed out. And then the RIT works the same way. It goes up in.
But if you want to look at 2 different chunks of the band, and you're dealing with a DXCW station that's off frequency.
You could, yeah. Yeah, you could. Although typically I'll be on split, right? And then I'm not going to retune the transmit the receive frequency because I'm listening to him on that. Yeah. Yeah. So there are reasons. I use the RIT more often on net situations. So there's when somebody's got, you know, a 70s radio that's off, that won't even tune to finer than 50 hertz, and they're off by about 48 hertz. There's nothing like the RIT to bring them in.
Sometimes I listen to CW stations and they're so perfectly 0 beat.
Oh,
and their signal strength is fairly close. I can't even tell.
You can't hear them.
Except just
the clicking. Yeah.
Sometimes it drives me crazy. Say, what the hell just happened? And then I realize.
Well, that's a good point. So for that purpose, where you want to work this CW station that I'm sitting on, but I don't want to be in the same spot as this other guy that's trying to work him just to his right, I can turn on my XIT and go down, and it gives you a little indicator. It's very hard to see. I have a typical male red-green color blindness. So when you put red and blue together, yeah, whatever, I don't see it. But somewhere in here is a little line that indicates where I'm transmitting. So you could move your transmit frequently just slightly off of his so that you're not in the rest of the pileup that's 0 beat with them. That's a good use for XIT. And you don't necessarily want to have to bring up split just to do that. So good. Yes, question. Yes, we're going to go way through profiles in a minute. So yeah, because they're critically important. All right, let me get to the last control here. It's called DAX. It's digital audio exchange, and this is what lets you talk to FT8 and other things like that. We're not going to go into it much more than that. There are 2 channels available. You can set it to none, 1 or 2. Typically, everybody leaves slice A at 1, slice B at 2. And don't get confused because there's another DAX over here, but this is not the same DAX. This is DAX IQ. IQ stands for the in-phase and quadrature phase that we use in SDR radio. So I'm not going to get into all that other than this is the channel that will give you the spectrum analyzer for however much you're spread out for, right? So you can get hundreds of kilohertz of signals in the DAX IQ. So if you're running a piece of software like CW Skimmer or one of those to decode CW, you would use DAX IQ. If you are running a skimmer that doesn't use IQ, it just uses the audio channel, then you would use DAX.
How do you get it from there to skimmer?
You have to run the skimmer, and in the skimmer you select the audio. So we're not going to go through that today, but I think at another time when people get up to speed on this, I think we should have a whole session on how to do FT8 and things like that. And I think we should press Simon into, he is the FT8 expert. I worked it once.
Is everybody warm enough? I turned the heat off so the floor wouldn't be running. But
Thank
it's
you.
getting cold.
No, it was way too hot in here before. All right, so let's keep going on the flag here. By the way, this is called the flag because it has two components, right? It has the vertical here, which is like the flagpole, and this piece is the flag. So Flex just coined the term flag to mean this receiver display. All right, so on the flag we have two antennas here. Antenna 1 in blue, that's the receive antennas, and there are several choices. You could choose antenna 1, antenna 2, RXA, which is a receive-only antenna, or XVTA, which is the transverter port. Since nothing is connected on our radio to anything except antenna 1, I don't recommend it. What's that?
Dummy load on.
Oh, dummy load on 2. Okay, so antenna 2 has a dummy load. So good, thanks for that, Mark. Don't abuse this because you can put out a lot of power. So these antenna dummy loads are meant for quick tune-up kind of things. All right, and if you go to receiver A, if you go to transverter, you see there's nothing on any of those. All right. Yeah, dummy load on 2. All right, so on the transmit antennas, we have the same thing, but no RXA, because obviously you're not going to transmit there. Okay, this is the TX, the transmit indicator. You can turn that on or off. If I have the transmit indicator off, you see over here the tune and the MOX, which is the PTT. Buttons are grayed out. You can't key the rig. Can't do it. If I turn that on, I'm right on a guy, so I'm not going to be that stupid. There we go. There's a clear spot. By the way, how cool is this? You can see the band is clear. I can push the tune button.
You should always tune up right on top of the DX file.
Yeah. Now, here's an interesting.
It's everybody off.
Yep. Well, now here's an interesting fact about the radio when talking about tuning. So if let's find a good strong guy. Here we go. Yeah, that's some nonsense. Here we go. All right, this guy's transmitting right on 14.260. If I hit the tune button, I'm going to transmit on 14.260. Exactly. I'm going to tune on his suppressed carrier frequency. He'll never hear it. So when I'm on a net and I want to tune up and make sure I'm okay, I'll go ahead and do that. I won't leave it on there long, but I'll go ahead and make sure that I'm okay, and then I'll get on the net without having to find a clear space. The clear space is on the person's exact frequency. Can't do that on CW, but you can do that on sideband. You can do that on AM as well. All right, so that's that. Let's see, we talked about split already. You can shrink or restore this depending on your computer screen size. You can click this slice indicator and get it to shrink or expand. I just leave it expanded. But sometimes if you've got multiple slices and a lot of stuff happening, it might be nice to just do that. And then all you get is the transmit indicator that you can turn on and off, and the frequency that you can't do anything with other than tune the radio, but you can no longer click on this to type into it.
That transmit indicator, is that, you don't use that to key the transmitter on and off.
Correct.
You
That
just select which flag you're gonna transmit.
exactly. So it's particularly important if I have two slices open, especially if I'm split.
Slice it, see.
Yeah, you can see who's who. Yep. There are ways to do that, and we're going to talk about.
I was gonna say, that's a.
We're going to talk about that. There's actually some relatively easy ways to do that, but out of the box, not so much. Okay, let's just finish this up real quick because oh my gosh, we're way late. This is the lock. If you lock this, I can click all I want, and I can't change the frequency. I use that when I'm on nets. And I also use this when I'm operating split, so I don't accidentally tune away from the DX frequency. Because if you accidentally turn this into the active slice, you can flip the mouse wheel and lose your DX. There's a record button and a playback button, so you can record what you hear, click it again to stop recording, and now you can play it back. And you can play it back over the air, but there's some tricks to that. It doesn't always come out well. You'll need to experiment with that and play with it before you just start using that, but it does work. This is the S meter. It's calibrated the usual way. Minus 73 dBm is S9, right on the button. I measured mine, it is on the nose. You can click the thing, and you can get the dBm, the signal strength in dBm here. So for example, right now we're looking at minus 96 dBm, or that equates to about an S5. Now, this 96 dBm is not 115 or 18 dBm that I'm seeing here. This scale is measuring each individual bin of the spectrum analyzer. This S meter is measuring the integral of in other words, the summation, so to speak, of the signals within the passband. Okay, so this S meter operates the way traditional S meters operate, or were designed to operate, except instead of a capacitor being used to average the signal to get it, they're using software. And the values along this axis here are for the individual, whatever individual thing that is coming up here is what shows here. So don't try to compare these two. Yes?
How would you measure noise?
You can measure noise floor one of two ways. If you want to be authentic about it completely and get an absolute value, you'll set this to a 500. You'll set this to CW, and you'll choose a 500 hertz bandwidth, and you'll read the value here. Now you're at a standard 500 hertz bandwidth, which is what the ARL and others use. Now, from a practical perspective, I just use this because I don't care what the absolute value of the noise floor is. It doesn't do anything for me. So I just use this value to get an approximation of where the noise is.
Does the bin size change based on how much spectrum you're looking at?
It does.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
So when you narrow in, so what Mark is asking, does the bin size change when you scroll the pan adapter, when you zoom the pan adapter? And the answer is yes. So a bin is an individual box or bin that you're carrying an amplitude value in. So I'm at 14.260.000.000, and I have minus 96 dBm. 14.260.001, I have some other value, and so forth. So those are the bins. And it's just like a spectrum analyzer. It is a spectrum analyzer. Works the same way. So if you're familiar with resolution bandwidth, RBW, that's what we're talking about. But we digress. Gazillions.
I was gonna say,
There is some number, I don't know what that number is. But I'll tell you that somewhere in the specs of things, you can find, if you do a search on it, you can find out what the minimum bin size is when you're zoomed way in, and it might be sub 1 hertz. I
was trying to.
think it's a fraction of a hertz. Yeah.
Flash quicker.
No, all of this stuff is happening in the radio. And the things that we're seeing here are already out of processing, and we're just, what Mike Walker from Flex Radio always calls this a movie. He says, this is just a movie. Well, that's not technically correct. This is actually the data coming back and being shown, but they've already massaged the data for the bin size and for the amount of zoom that you have and so forth. So it doesn't help you much in terms of performance. All right. Oh, we're making good progress. Now we're on the control panel. This whole big thing over here is the control panel. And I'm going to turn off everything except for the individual control panel that I'm going to talk about at the moment. So I'm going to turn all these off, and we're just going to talk about TX. So the TX gives you RF output power. All right, so you remember when I hit the tune button, you can see the power. I just sent 10 watts out. You can see the SWR was nice and low. And then there are the RF power and the tune power sliders. So I can set my RF out. If I feel like running QRP, I can do it. I can just set this down to 5, and that gives me 5% of 100, which is 5 watts, and I can operate this rig as a QRP rig. If I'm running FT8 or something and signals are just overwhelmingly strong, maybe I want to only run about 30 watts, okay? For most sideband and CW, you're probably going to want to run it up around 100. The tune power is special. You normally want to leave this at 10 watts. The tuner is very happy with 10 watts. If you make it too high, the tuner won't tune because it doesn't want to spark the relays, right? If you make it too low, it doesn't have enough juice to work on. 10 is the sweet spot. So generally speaking, leave this at 10. Now, you do not need to put the rig into AM or RTTY or FM or any other mode to get a CW carrier out for tune. The tune button, regardless of what mode you're in, always gives you a CW carrier. How cool is that? I think that to me made my day when I found out it worked that way. Might as well do it right. All right, then this MOX button is the push to talk. MOX comes from, in the old days, they had VOX, voice operated keying, VOX. And then somewhere they quit using the term PTT and start using manually operated switch. So MOX. It's like, really? You couldn't have just kept a good term that we had called PTT? So anyway, yeah, or let you rename it. So anyway, that's the MOX. Now this button, I'm not going to click it because we're live on the air here, but I can click it. I'll turn the power down to 0. It's a toggle. So you push it on and you push it off. It does not have a hold and release function. It's only toggle on, toggle off. So be aware of that, because what that is a little bit unfortunate. I understand it because you've got to do it with the mouse. It's unfortunate because then what happens is guys click it and then they stop talking and then you hear their wife talking to them and you hear the vacuum cleaner come on and next thing you know, you realize, oh, they thought the band went dead and they left it transmitting. So that's how that works. This is the ATU button, which is the automatic tuner. So somebody asked about the tune button does not initiate a tune cycle. It only initiates a carrier. The ATU button initiates a tune cycle. Antenna tuner, it's automatic tuner, ATU, or antenna tuner. And then it has a memory function. Now, this doesn't seem to be documented very well. So pay attention to this because you're not going to find this out there in the world. If I click the ATU, I can put this into bypass mode. And it went into bypass. Now, if I want to put it back into tuner mode, but just use, because I'm on memory, it should remember where I was, it's going to retune the radio. So now it's tuning, and it tuned. I didn't want it to do that, but I wanted to go in and out of bypass mode. To go in and out of bypass mode, the easy way, just click MEM. Now I'm in bypass, click MEM, and I'm back to tuned. And you can see that I'm tuned.
Boy, that is misnamed.
Isn't that ridiculous? So as much as I have a Flex hat, okay, Flex does have its warts, and that's a little minor one. Okay, so let's not belabor that. Let's go to the P/CW.
So to use the automatic tuner, you would leave that ATU button toggled on
Yes.
and then just hit the tune.
Oh, no. I see your question now. If I hit the tune button, all that does is give me a carrier, and I can look at the SWR meter here, and you see that I'm under 1.2 to 1. No sense, I don't need to retune it. If I'm in bypass mode, you can see that I'm about, 1.6 or something to 1, right? So that tells me that I can just have it on and I don't need to tune it. On the other hand, if I showed up here and I click the tune button, if this said 1.7 to 1 and I wanted to get it better, then I would go ahead and just unclick it and re-click it, and that will reinitiate a tune sequence. Make sense?
Yeah, it's not, this is one of the.
Yeah, so the two, let's break it into two things.
Sure, watts doesn't matter.
If I switch band,
Yep,
Yeah,
what do I need to do?
so if I switch bands, let's go to 6 meters.
I mean, the ATU's got a bunch of memories, right? So that's
Right.
so that once it.
So you see that it says success? That means I've already tuned it here. And so if I click the tune button, look at that, I'm under 1.2 to 1 on 6 meters. Oh, thank you.
It was just a little bit of smoke.
Nope, that was going right out over the antenna. Perfectly legitimate signal.
So he says in fine print.
All right, so there's, it's tuning, it tunes just fine. And by the way, you can see it looks like I have a horribly messy signal here. That is not going out over the air. That's an extremely clean single frequency, all right? So let's pick another band. Let's go to 160. Who could tune up on 160? Well, look, success. Under 1.5 to 1 on 160. So as it turns out, I've already tuned a lot of frequencies in here. So if it comes up and says success, just hit,
Get him at 160.
yeah, just click the tune button. And if it's a reasonable number, you're done. If it's,
So you click the.
I don't know, honestly.
What's that?
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, it is. When you hit the tune button, that's the reason there's a slider there. when you hit the tune button, it is tuning, right? I mean.
Yeah, so let's talk about the three buttons in question. The tune button
Always tuned,
just emits a carrier.
right?
So now I'm sending out a 10-watt carrier. That's all I'm doing. And I can look at my SWR meter and my power meter and see 10 watts, a little under 1.5 to 1 SWR. So that's all the tune button does. The ATU button either takes the tuner out offline, so now I'm in bypass, and if I re-engage it, even though it's in memory mode, don't ask me, I will initiate a tuning cycle on the tuner. So now I'm going to initiate a tuning cycle, and this may take a minute. So it's working away, and eventually here I got success.
Was it best to leave that AQ on or off?
On.
Yeah.
On, because this particular antenna is it an NFED, Mark? NFED 40 through 10, not even designed for 160.
That's the reason it matches on one side.
Yeah, but this and so generally, if you click tune and you've got a good SWR, whatever condition this is in, on or off, just leave it. It's good. If you tune it and you got a high SWR, then retune. Okay, everybody kind of okay on that at least? Okay. Yeah, they do some things funny. All right. So we're on the phone in the PCW. So it's if we're on phone, I have a mic level. So you can see as I'm speaking into the mic on my computer, I have this, you see I have my mic set for PC. So I'm on the PC and you can see my voice on the level meter. And I'll show you in a while how to get it to work this way. Ignore the compression. The Flex has a whole different way of doing compression. It's controlled envelope single sideband. So look that up on the ARRL. There's some really good papers on it, very interesting. Dave Hirschberger, who I bought some of his cheap kit stuff 100 years ago, and he went on to create this. What it's doing is it's processing the signal with very, very little distortion. Typically not more than 1% overshoot from the envelope, which means THD of I don't know what, but very low. So ignore this compression line. It's not helping you. It's not doing much for us. I don't know why they have it. This is my mic profile. So whoever was asking about profiles, we're going to get to them almost in a minute. My mic profile, I set to be called K0DRC laptop, and it's all set up for my voice, for the way how I like to operate. I have it set for the PC because I'm going to operate this radio from my PC. There's no microphones plugged into the radio, so I can't use mic or accessory. That's why the ACC always needs to be off, because there's nothing plugged in there. All you can possibly do is add noise. DAX is for digital, that we talked about a little bit. We're not going to go into that now. PROC is the processor. I recommend leaving the processor on unless you're in FM. So if you're on 10 or 6 meter FM, turn the processor off. But if you're on sideband or AM, turn the processor on. At the DX Plus setting, there's 3 settings. At DX Plus, you're getting 2.8 dB average increase in your signal. That doubles your signal. Think about that. Nearly doubles your signal. So when you're operating a 100-watt flex radio with the processor on and in the DX Plus position, you're operating what amounts to a 200-watt radio.
So it's kind of compression.
It is compression. It is very much compression, but it is not old-fashioned compression. So traditional compression boosts all this stuff and the low sounds and boosts them up, but it overshoots like crazy. So you have to keep your amount of dB compression down to like 2 or 3, 5, low numbers. Well, this compresses all the way to the edge of the envelope, of the SSB envelope, and it only overshoots at most by 1%. So that gives it a very clean. Now you can tell that somebody's using the compression on this radio. So a friend of mine, Bill Cody, K0DRC, he's a musician. He doesn't like it because he can hear those little artifacts.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but he loses out a lot by turning off that processor. It's not objectionable. It's just a little bit of, and it adds a little sharpness, but for DXing, how great is that? So anyway, that you can do with that as you like. The monitor, I really, really recommend you leave this off. If you turn this on, you will get feedback and things go crazy. The monitor is not a way to understand the quality of your outgoing signal. The monitor only is useful for headphones, so that if you're talking into a mic and you're having trouble because you can't hear yourself well, that's the only time you should be using the monitor. So leave that off. All right, mic selection needs to be PC unless you have worked with Mark and have something else plugged in. All right, let's go to we're going to look at this same thing, but under CW. So if I'm in CW mode and I'm on this, you see I get an ALC indicator. Ignore this. It has no function. I don't know why they put it there. There's a way in the settings somewhere to do some ALC things. First of all, we do not have an amplifier connected to the radio, so it doesn't help you. Secondly, a modern radio like the Flex does not rely on ALC to control the RF out. It has its own control circuitry that's beyond compare. So just ignore that. It doesn't do anything. The delay here is the CW delay from the time you leave keying to the time it goes back to receive. I like this up around 150 or even a couple of hundred, so that I am not chopping in and out between characters. When I send CW, it's too distracting for me. So I don't like full QSK. This is how you do that. When you're operating remotely, I would not operate this at less than about 100, because if it's too low, you can chop your CW. So if you look in some of the forum posts, there's a lot of discussion about choppy CW from Flex radios. And I've spoken directly with their developers about this. And they keep telling me, no, that's not how it works. And I said, I can empirically show you that it's exactly how it works. And so Eric Waxman, KE5DTO from Flex, supposedly left Hamvention last year and went back to check on that. But I can show you definitively that if this number is too short on a WAN connection,
Which number is that? I can't.
delay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you're operating a Flex with paddles, you want that delay to be at least 100, and I tend to keep it closer to 200. Anyway, next is speed, and speed is here. You will not use this with paddles, but you will use this with the CWX panel that lets you send CW. I'm not going to go through that right this second. Correct. And we're not going to go through that right. I'm going to go through it in a minute, but we're not right this second. So this speed, don't worry about. I guess it does control that as well, but this is really more for your paddles. Side tone doesn't work with the paddles, so because you're remote. So this will only work with the CWX. Break-in is what you use to say, if you're operating the radio locally, which you're not, this would keep your paddles from keying the radio. That just says, key the radio, don't key the radio with the paddles. Break-in is a poor designator for that. But because we're going to be using other methods for CW, this doesn't help you. Iambic doesn't help you. And the pan adapter for the pan left and right for the side tone doesn't help you. The pitch is the pitch that you like to hear the CW at. I'm old, but I still like 800. Don't ask me why. Most people will keep this around 600. I know some people who keep it around 400. To me, that's just a groan. I can't hear it. But anyway, you want this set so that your CW signal is centered in the passband. If I set this to 600, then when I'm key on the guy, it'll be 600 hertz. When I've had 800, when I'm spang on him, I'll be at 800 hertz. Make sense? All right. Now, if we have this, I'm sorry. If we go to the phone thing, let's go to a phone mode. There we go. On this control panel, you want the AM carrier to be at 100. Unless you're doing some kind of experimental stuff with AM, you normally just want this on 100. I'm surprised they give it to you as a.
Especially it's on top too. It's like.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway.
If you're not AM mode, does it even do anything?
If you're not in AM, it doesn't do anything.
So
No.
it's, okay, never mind.
Yeah, so if you're running AM, I just leave it at 100. Anyway, Vox works, and you want to set the Vox level so that it trips reliably on your voice, but not with every little sound in the shack. And you want to set the delay so that it doesn't cut in and out between syllables. The downward expander does not work remotely, and you see it's grayed out. That only works with a local microphone. And then the transmit filter you can set, and this is by your profile, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I like the low cut at 200 so that the booming bassy stuff in my voice isn't going out over the air and wasting, yeah, you can't understand a word of it. So for better clarity, I keep mine at 200, and then to be a good, to be a good neighbor, I keep mine at 2900. You can go way wide on this. I think that's just rude behavior. So the guys that do ESSB, which is not to be confused with CESSB, extended single sideband, those guys that run like 5 or 6 kilohertz wide signals just because they can. I don't understand that mentality. But anyway, if you do that, don't tell me. So I keep mine at 2900. If you're on 60 meters, you might have to drop this to 2800 to stay in band. Otherwise, the radio won't let you transmit. So that's what that is. Let's go to the RX. This RX is really just a duplicate of the flag. Not quite everything on the flag is over here, so I'm not going to go through all this, but you can see that you don't get quite as many filter selections, you know, for anything. But you do get the one thing that the flag doesn't have, which is the tuning step, right? So on phone, it defaults to 100, but you can change it to anything you want, all the way down to 1 hertz. Why you would do that to yourself, I don't know. If you happen to be on CW, the default is 10. Somebody set this to 20. I think for the digital modes, but you can set it to what you want. Yeah, that mark, you gotta watch him. Yeah, so I personally keep it down on 10 when I'm on CW. Just seems to be the right amount. You could set it lower or higher. If you're trying to zip around the band, you can set it higher, but with a double click ability.
Sometimes you can kind of pick this is less steps if you're just
Yeah.
using the keyboard to step frequency.
Oh, yeah, I use the mouse. So for me, yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's really the only thing of note there is that's the tuning step size. All right, let's go to the EQ. We're almost done with this section here. Oh, and this is where the auto tune exists too. I showed you that before. All right, the EQ, there are two equalizers, the transmit equalizer and the receive equalizer. And this goes based on your global profile. It seems like it ought to go with your transmit profile, but it doesn't. It goes with your global profile. So again, we'll get into profiles in just a minute. So for me, for this microphone in my laptop that I use, I cut the deep bassy stuff way off, and I had to bump up my, oh, this is my old one. These need to never go more than 4. Sorry, there we go. You don't want to set these higher on transmit than 4 dB because otherwise you can overdrive it. And the microphone, when you're on the TX panel, oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. The phone in CW panel where you're looking at your level. This level wants to always be right up here, just below the 0. So you adjust this level so that this does not go into the red, okay? So when you're adjusting this, it is this little peak. You see the little square?
Yeah, I wondered about that.
Yeah. So here's the big mistake that so many Flex owners make. Because they give you this nice big, look at that long tail, right? So people move that tail up to the red. And that overdrives the radio badly. And so Flex has a reputation for having crappy audio. That's why. It doesn't improve your signal any, it just makes it sound terrible. So you always want, I'm at work, honey. You always want to keep this little tiny lead square, that's the peak indicator, above 10, but below 0. So I tend to set it so that I'm just floating somewhere around halfway. Then if you bump your audio by 3 or 4 dB here, that bites into your little overhead here, your headroom here. Does that make sense? That's not obvious. Okay, the other thing that this has is a receive equalizer. And you see it's similar because I'm trying to peak up people's voices. They make these muddy bass because they think they're on late night TV or FM radio, and it's not good for communications. And I'm old. I like to peak my 1 kilowatt, my 1 kilohertz and 2 kilohertz slots a little bit. 3 or 4 dB is enough. If you set these too high, it gets irritating. If you set them too low, you can't understand the guy. So adjust these to your preference, and we'll talk about how to adjust the TX one coming up in a bit. I'm not going to show you everything about that, but okay. Then these then the final panel is nothing but an analog meter that everybody wanted. I don't like it. It looks nice, but it burns up so much of my screen. So I don't use it. If you want to turn it on, it's ANLG for the analog like meter, but I leave it off.
I haven't tried them myself.
Yeah.
Can't beat the bar graph for the S meter.
Yeah, it's great. It works perfectly. So anyway, any of these, if there's if, for example, you don't like the slice one up here, that's the RX one, you can just turn it off, right? If you like it, turn it on. Okay, now let's go through all the additional controls and we'll try to zip through these quick because we're really running on a borrowed time. What time is it now? Oh, 12:30. Oh, not too bad. All right, we'll start with the menu items. So there's File. There's something called waveforms. We don't have any waveforms right now. Digital voice will come into being a waveform at some point. It was at one time. They ran into some kind of problems with licensing or something that went away. So there's nothing there now. New modes can be implemented with this. The exit is the same exit as the exit up here in the corner. Don't think that you're doing something better or worse by clicking either one. They're the same. The settings, I'm going to really zip here because this has a whole bunch of things that we're not going to do. Please don't change anything on the radio tab. This is for us to buy. If you click this Get Early Access button, you're going to buy the club early access. It'll be on you. It'll be on your credit card, and there's no way to undo it. Flex has been very clear about that. So don't click that. I'm thinking not.
The best thing is not to have a card on file.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So there's nothing here that you can do anything with. The network, please don't mess with the network. GPS, we do not have a GPS unit in the radio. If you click the install, you'll give Mark a huge headache. So if you hate Mark, you can do that. The TX, we don't have an amplifier or anything connected on here. Do not change this from single tone to multi-tone. That's for specialized testing. Your tune mode needs to be single tone, so there's nothing to change here. And that brings us to the phone/CW tab. That the only thing that you want is enable the level meter during receive. So if you see the level meter as I'm talking, if you turn that off, it goes away. Well, that doesn't cost anything to keep running, and it's wonderful for setting your mic level without even transmitting. So before you're even on the air, you've got the mic level about where it belongs. The rest of this stuff is all about CW that we can't really do this way. The RX lets you calibrate the rig. It's already calibrated, so let's just leave all this stuff alone. The filters. So the question over here, you can adjust the filters for less latency or sharper. It doesn't make a lot of difference, but I have, when I'm running two radios, an analog radio and my Flex at home at the same time on the same frequency to just compare, I have put this into low latency mode for that purpose and got them to be nearly identical. So you can take a lot of the latency out, but there's not that much. The primary source of latency for the radio when you're operating remotely is the WAN. So you can use this, but I don't recommend it. Do not use the low latency filters for digital modes. This is a specific ask by the Mars guys so that they can use ALE, automatic link establishment. It's like Pactor or some of those kind of modes. It's used by the military and therefore used by Mars operators. And that's the only reason for this. You really degrade your filters dramatically to try to get a faster turnaround receive to transmit. And since it uses something very similar to it, I don't think it's the same. It could have changed, I suppose, but anyway, so for most things, you don't need that. We don't have any transverters, so if somebody wants to buy the club a transverter, we'll put it up. Okay. Let's see, I was on here. Oh, you need to turn on PC audio. So you cannot hear this radio through the speakers because the speakers are 50 miles away in Strasbourg, right? And there aren't any connected to it. So you need PC audio. Then when you look up here in the corner, I don't know, oh yeah, you can see them. There's a little speaker icon and a headphone icon. The headphone icon does nothing for you. That is only for the headphones that are plugged physically into the radio, which doesn't help you being here. And this is the master volume. I find for a PC, I need to keep this all the way up. Your mileage may vary, set it to how you like it. You can right click or left click this to mute or unmute the whole radio. So if I've got 2 slices going, I can mute individual slices independently, right? Or I can mute the whole radio with this one. Okay. Oh, let's go to the rest of settings here. Sorry. Choose radio. Does anybody here have a Flex at home?
I will.
You will. Okay. So for our one and myself, those of us that have that will need this. Choose radio is the way to get from your radio to the remote radio or from the remote radio to your radio. Otherwise, it'll just keep coming up on whatever radio it was on last. For the rest of us,
So
The-
that's to change, when you have a radio, you have to change between the remote or your local or whatever you're using.
right, right. Flex control, since nobody has a Flex, I don't think anybody has a Flex control. Won't go over that. That's a little device you can buy.
It's a little remote control box.
Yeah, they're terribly expensive for what you get. Network gives you a nice, they call this network diagnostics. That's very misleading. It's network statistics. It just shows you how well you're doing on your network connection. And look at this, we're sitting at excellent. There's another way to get that same thing
Did it
down.
show the dropouts, how many lost?
It does,
packets?
yeah.
I couldn't see the,
Yeah, it does. Okay.
on the Mac version, I have horrible dropouts. It's
Oh, okay.
because of mine.
Now we have a memory in this radio, and here's all the memories. I added one here for the Flex Sunday Net. Mark, I'm not sure what happened here, but all of the names.
Those are all, you should erase those. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So that's the day and the time.
Oh, is that what those are? Okay. Normally you put like, there's CW code practice, ARRL, and things like that. Anyway.
Well, so I'm using it like I do on a web SDR. So I hear something and I want to come back to them. And so I have a timestamp on a keyboard shortcut and I paste it in there and go somewhere else.
Oh,
And so, they're meant to be deleted. And I can't believe those are still in there. I've been on the radio in a couple months.
oh yeah. I thought those were random garbage.
They are random garbage.
Yeah.
They're just for temporary.
Oh, okay.
I just delete those. I apologize.
Okay, well then I'll give you, oh, they're easy to delete. We can delete them. I'll give you a suggestion then. Look up FR Stack 4.
Well, see, I'm using the Mac software, so.
Oh.
And that's part of the.
You Mac guys do it to yourself.
I know.
Okay,
Well, if Microsoft hadn't installed Windows 11 on
yeah,
my Chromebook
yep.
and blow up my little,
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
sorry.
moving along, the next thing in line here is USB cables. We don't have any USB cables plugged in, at least not at the moment. If we were ever to do that, please don't change anything on there. Mark will have set those up, and we don't want to mess with them. Spots are interesting. Spots we're not going to talk about, other than you can put DX spots right up on the screen, but we don't have a way to do that right at the moment. Mark and I will be working on that. Multiflex. I've turned multiflex off. Generally speaking, with 2 people trying to operate the radio at the same time, when you're not in the same room or doing the same thing, just let's just leave this off. You just click disabled or enabled, and that will save you a lot of
it was
grief.
such a big deal out of that when they used it. I was like, does
Well,
anybody really use it?
They do. It's heavily used,
Is it?
but it's heavily used in the contesting community,
Oh,
right? So what they do is a run station and a hunt and pounce station. So the run station,
I got you.
yeah, is just,
I can see where that would.
yeah, there are 14100, knocking out CW QSOs. And then the other guy's up on 15050, on 21050, looking for multipliers. He finds a multiplier, says, give me the transmitter, you got it. Then he sends something on that band, gets the multiplier, radio's yours.
Well, I just
And then
said
they
that
go,
I didn't really appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. For normal, for club use, it's horrible. Okay, and then the last thing here is TX band settings. So this goes by your transmit profile, which we'll talk about in a minute. That we don't have anything plugged into any of these jacks in the back. So just leave this alone. There's nothing to do with transmit band settings. If you have some reason that on your profile only, you want to don't let me ever transmit accidentally on 160 meters. You can turn off 160 meters, but if you do that on somebody else's profile, you just cut them out. So don't do that. All right. Finally, guess what we get to? Profiles. Profiles,
These are not part of the profile.
they are not.
Yeah. that's-
Yeah, they are just,
So
they're-
they're global memories.
they're global memories. Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah, exactly.
they should be. Everybody should have their own. Now,
That's the reason why I couldn't believe that's all. it
well,
is.
but what they have in here, and so let's talk about that for a quick sec. I don't want to spend too much time. But you see that there is an owner that can be given. So maybe if so for example, I put one out here and I made the owner KD0RC. So if we each put our own owner, and then by clicking on owner,
I didn't know I could put anything in there other than NA0.
yeah. So now I sorted it by owner so I can get all mine together, and you
So
can
when
have,
put date time in there, if you sort that column,
yeah,
then you can sort it by most recent or old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the reason I do that. So.
exactly. Yep, you sure can. And then a lot of times I like them by frequency, because then I can just scroll down to what I want,
Yeah.
but however you want to do it. So I would suggest, as just a club convention, put your own call in there if you add some.
I know to clean those out of there now. I didn't.
Yeah, no worries. If that's the worst you ever do, Mark, you're going to be okay. All right, profiles. Profiles don't really work the way you might think they are. There's something called persistence. So if I am on 1915 on 160 meters, and I go up to 6 meters at 50.107, if I come back to 160 meters, persistence brings me back to 1915. Other settings that I have for antenna and things like that come back, right? But some things are changed by the profile. So if I click on my profile, it takes me to the band that I saved the profile, the frequency that I saved the profile, and several other settings. So it kind of works the way you think a profile would work, but it kind of doesn't. And it's very frustrating, because most of us don't know off the top of our head. I certainly don't know what stuff is kept in persistence versus profile. They have a huge document out there. You can find
I
it.
wish they'd clean this up.
That it's the #1 complaint of all Flex complaints is how the profiles work. So what I'd like to do, because you can really make a mess of other people's lives, we want to have everybody have their own global profile, mic profile, and transmit profile. So when you first get on, you'll go to profile. There are a whole bunch of options here that I think are very misleading. It's much easier to go to Profile Manager, and then you can see all the global profiles. So here's my global profile, and this is the one that's loaded at the moment, right? So I can click load, and I'll come right back to where I was a second ago, right? So now my global profile is in effect. This is my transmit profile, and you see that it picked up my transmit and my mic profile, because I saved my profile with my own transmit and my own mic profiles. So now my stuff is all together in my global. Now, if I want to create one and I say, yeah, Len's got a great profile. So I'm going to create one called
So it would be good to
W1.
use your call sign
Yes,
in the profile so that,
yes, everybody should always, now, there's two things to that. Your global profile should normally be just your call, but if you have multiple globals, which you can have, it'll be your call plus some designator that you want. Your mic profile and your transmit profile should just have your call somewhere in them. The transmit profile isn't used for much, so I would just make it my call. The mic profile, you notice I have mine called KD0RC laptop because I might have different ones. So name them however you want, just always start them with your call.
so the global profile is not it does not overlay all your sub profiles. You have the global profile, you have so it's really
It's confusing. So
very confusing.
yeah, so global is not very global. Global is you.
Yeah,
So each of us should have our own global profile.
but you still have a separate profile for,
Wait,
go ahead.
yeah, so your global profile comprises
It does comprise.
your mic and your transmit.
Oh, okay, that's what I wasn't sure about.
Yeah, so one global profile per individual. So we have the KE0P profile, which I believe there even is one in here. No, there isn't. So we'll create one for
You
you.
know, I think I just take whatever I never really took the time to.
Right. So that's the behavioral we'll fix. Okay.
So when you log in, which profile, does the radio default to one profile or does it just the last use?
I believe it's last used.
Okay, that's-
And I don't have a good way to test that because when I log in,
Well, that's
So-
what throws you off, but sometimes you
Yeah.
log in, everything is there and sometimes it's
right.
not.
So when I'm logged in, the first thing I do when I log in is change it to mine,
Yeah.
just immediately. First thing, so I don't goof anything
good
up.
idea.
Then the last thing I do when I leave, so let's simulate that.
They
So
should put the profile in the menu bar up there, so you know.
well, they should, and I have a utility to do that. And sooner or later, when we get our next PC, that'll be there. So if I'm on mine, the last thing I do when I leave, there's something called NA0TC default. I click that and it takes it to 15-meter digi. Right? I always do. Well, that's self-preservation.
Because otherwise because there's no security, somebody's gonna change your profile.
Right.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Inadvertently,
Yeah.
people will get on, and how many times have I done it to myself?
Yeah.
I get on, it's like, oh, darn it, I meant to be
Well,
on
I'm
the,
sure I've messed up
Yeah.
somebody else's because I don't pay attention to it because I
Yeah.
knew it wasn't.
yeah. So we'll profile yourself first when you get on and profile the club when you get off. Yes.
Okay, it's time to ask my question. Are these profiles stored on your computer or
In the radio. In the radio.
mic profile? Well,
Yeah.
Well,
Everybody's everything is everywhere, is on the radio. Yes.
so if you don't, then use their mic profile on your computer, not yours.
Right.
So you better, one of the first things you need to do is
Create a profile.
create all this stuff you showed us.
Right.
We need to create, and don't save that,
Right.
and bring it in your profile.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're gonna use whatever the last person
Yeah.
did, and hopefully they're left it at NA0TC.
Right. Right. So you hurt yourself if you don't remember to put it back to NA0TC. Yeah. Okay. So right now I'm on KD0RC. So now I'm going to be, I'm the new club guy. I'm going to go to profile manager, and I'm going to put my new call sign in. I just got it, W1AW. I'm going to save. Now, because I had loaded KD0RC, and then type in W1AW and save, now there's a profile called W1AW. All right, so now let me just move this to a different frequency. And if I go to W1AW, if I go to KD0RC, it should go back to where I was at 329. Now, if I go to W1AW, you see that it goes to a new frequency. Oh, I must not have saved it when I thought I did. Okay, anyway, it still looks like mine, but I'm actually on W1AW. Then I want to also create a transmit profile. So I'm going to call it W1AW. Create. And I'm going to create a microphone profile called W1AW. Create. Now on my global, I'm going to load W1AW. And I'm going to set my transmit profile and my mic profile to W1AW. Now I do a profile manager, W1AW, save. Now, if I go to KD0RC, I get KD0RC. If I go to W1AW, I get W1AW. Does that kind of make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Until you see it done, I struggled with this myself. Okay. Now, another thing that profiles let you do are import and export. We can't do that because we're remote. Flex has promised that they're going to have some kind of way to do that. So, Mark, it'll be on you using the NUC up there. I'd say every couple of weeks or something. If we get a bunch of people signing on, you might want to do a profile export, and it'll just name it. You just pick a folder that you want them in, and just do them from time to time so that we have a backup. Then if somebody does something really horrible and really messes up all the profiles, we can get back. And we can get back from individual. So if you goof up just your own profile and you really need to go back a couple of weeks and Mark's got a backup from then, we can get just yours back. So just be careful with that.
How many can the Flex, since they're stored locally out there in Strasbourg?
Yep.
How many can it store? How
Oh.
many of us can use them?
Use them to your heart's content. I mean, we don't want to get so many.
The only thing is you got to scroll through the list.
Yeah, we don't want to get so many profiles that it gets unmanageable. But you don't hesitate. I have never seen a limit on that. There must be one, obviously, but I haven't seen anything. They used to use an SD card. So Mark's the Flex 6400 has an SD card in it, and I want to say it's a 32 gigabyte SD card, and I think the newer ones are 64. So Mark, I think yours might have a 64, and I'm guessing the club has a 32. I can't be 100% sure of that. Either way, we're not going to run out. Yes, it's a real pain to get to that SD card, and you can't just put any old SD card in there.
A high quality one because
Well,
it's used a lot.
and you have to get it from Flex. If you try to copy onto it, it won't work. People have done that, but it's not good. Okay, let me try to get through the last of this real quick. See, PC audio, we talked about that. All right, the left-hand controls. This little arrow is handy if you're running short of real estate. That just hides or restores that. The plus RX just gives you the second slice. We talked about that. The TNF, finally, let's talk about the TNF. This is a phenomenal thing. If you right click here, I can create a TNF right where I need it. And a lot of times I zoom in a lot just to figure out, you know, where I'm going with it. But I can use this by, I'm clicking and running the mouse up and down to either tune it or to set the width of it. I can right click on it and set it to really deep or very deep. I can also set it to remember. So if I have a piece of noise, let's put it to some actual noise here. So here's one of these stupid little things, right? So I can zoom in on that. Now this takes out everything. This is not just tones. There's no audio will come out of this tracking notch filter. They call it a tracking notch filter because it tracks with the pan adapter. No matter where I move the pan adapter, no matter where I tune the slice, that TNF goes with that piece of noise on the band. So this is undoubtedly some little wall wart or something out in the barn where the radio is located, right? And if it's an annoying enough one, you can put it out there and say, remember, and then when you close and reopen this, it'll still be there, and it'll be there for everybody. This is across all profiles. That'll always be there. If you don't like it, you don't have to get rid of it. So if this bothers Mark to the nth degree, and Len doesn't like it because Len wants to hear what's there anyway, all Len has to do is click the TNF button down here, and now it's not in play. I can see where it is, but it's not actually taking out any audio. To turn it back on, just click the TNF button. Okay, so those are,
A lot.
oh, infinite.
Oh,
Yeah,
Stay with one.
it does not. This is,
What? About that.
that's too bad, but no, that's good for everybody.
You
Yeah.
can see they need to re-architect the whole
The whole profile thing is a nightmare.
enterprise.
Yeah. And then you can just, when you're, like a lot of times, for a while I was trying to keep up with them, but these wall warts drift. And so, and then I'd wind up going through the band and realigning them. And I'm like, I'm not even listening to this part of the band. Why am I screwing with this? So nowadays, what I'll do is, if there's one out there and it's annoying me, I'll put a TNF on it and get rid of it. And then not put the remember on it. And then the next time I open my radio, it's gone. Yeah. On the other hand, there are a couple that are right in my house, I think, that are really bad. And I have those, and I do remember those, but they're stable. Whatever it is, they have settled down and are on the same frequency. So anyway, let's see. All right, let's look at the band. That's easy enough. This just takes you to whatever band. We don't have a transverter. That doesn't help. We don't have anything for 220 or 630. So these things down here don't help you much, but this is how you change bands. Won't get into that much more. The antenna this is where you set your RF gain. Now, this is another one of those ones where people set the RF gain incorrectly on this. I'm going to go to 6 meters real quick where we have a clean band so I can more easily show you. Oh, it's not very clean, is it? Okay, good enough. So we only have one antenna and a dummy load. So the trouble is everybody wants to crank the RF gain way up. Well, that doesn't help. there's an ideal place where you get the maximum dynamic range out of the radio. And the way that you set it up, so I'll do it so that you can see it, is you select something that has no antenna on it, all right, RXA. And I happen to be on 24 dB of preamp on 6 meters, right? Now I look at the antenna on antenna 1, and you see not much changed.
It didn't change.
So let's move it up to 32 for both RXA, all right? All right, now on RXA, it's at 150, minus 150 dBm, and on antenna 1, didn't quite get up to 140. So on 6 meters with this antenna, I can actually use more antenna gain. All right, so now let's go down and set it for 160 meters. All right, so 160 meters, I have the RF gain set down to minus 8. So I have 8 dB of attenuation set. Yes.
Leave the ATU on?
The ATU doesn't matter. The ATU does not help you on receive. It's only for transmit. Yep.
Receive or broadcast?
On receive your broad, yeah. That's unfortunate. In any event,
So wait a minute, but you have bandpass filters.
the band, no. There, okay.
Yeah, let's not.
Bandpass filter is, yeah, it's getting late. Let me just show you how to do this, because this is a
It's pretty cool to show this.
critical adjustment that nobody knows how to do. All right, so my RXA is at 0 or minus 8. My antenna 1 is at minus 8. All right, and I want 10 dB difference between the two. Well, I got nothing. So I'm going to bump up to 0 on both. All right, now I'm sitting right at close to 120. I'm going to go down to RXA. Yeah, not good enough yet. There we go. Look at that, 8 dB. So I'm going to go to antenna 1, 8 dB. All right, so now antenna 1 is almost 120. RXA is down close to 130. That's probably okay. I might be able to go one more, but I would tend to leave it here. So that's maybe 8 dB of difference. So now I've set that for, it's probably less than that. It's probably about 5 dB, but I've set that for something closer to optimal dynamic range for the radio. So if we go to a band that is within the range of the antenna, this will be more dramatic,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now you're on the dummy load, right?
No, now we're on, let's go to the antenna. 110 on the antenna. So we want the receive antenna to be somewhere around 120. And that's at 0, right? So let's go here. All right. All right, at 0 dB, in other words, no preamp in the line, and we'll go to antenna 1 with no preamp in the line. All right, so now I'm a little over 120. Go to RXA. Oh, I needed that on 8. Sorry. Okay. Now a little over 120 to a little over 130. Now we've optimized the RF gain for 40 meters. Make sense? So what I'll recommend, because we could,
You're looking at the noise floor.
with no
the dummy
antenna,
load,
yeah,
with the dummy load, which is no antenna,
right,
and then you're gonna listen to the band and see the noise floor come up.
with an antenna, right,
With an antenna. So what you're trying to do is the dummy load noise floor you're trying to set the gain to be just a little bit below the noise floor of the actual
Yeah.
antenna.
No, you're trying to set it to be 10 dB down from the
Is it 10 dB?
10,
Okay.
8, what Flex quotes is 8 to 10 dB, and then they give you 8 dB increments. So,
Okay.
so all you're after is, if you can get it to be somewhere 5, 10 dB, that's sufficient. On some bands, depending, like 160 is notorious for this, you can't get it. You can get maybe a couple of dB different. I was saying you're out of the realm of the preamp and the attenuator, so just set it as low as it goes and be content. It doesn't make terrible amounts of difference, other than if you set the RF gain way up when you don't need it, then you overload things. And then other people will do something down the,
You have more noise.
right,
And
and
you
you
want-
need
Want to back off.
less preamp.
Yes, less preamp, whereas
Mhm.
6 meters is classically, some radios don't even have enough gain for 6 meters.
Exactly. And this one does. This one has gain in spades. It goes from -8 to 32 in 8 dB steps. Okay, let's keep moving.
So what is? You move it up and down.
Well, the dynamic range of the radio, no, the dynamic range of the radio is about 100 dB.
Okay.
And
And then,
correct. That's, yeah. Mhm. Okay, so the next thing down is the display. The only thing on here I recommend changing is the average. I personally like it sitting up around 80. You see, if I set it to 100, how slow things start to move. If you set it all the way open, that could drive you to distraction. My personal preference is 70, and that's where I keep mine. But you're, of course, welcome to put that wherever you want. Frames per second, I like at 24, 25. It just gives a nice smooth display. If you're having bandwidth problems, you want to set that down. And you can set that down to 5 or so and still get a usable display. And then the rate at the bottom is the rate that the waterfall moves. I like that at the default of 80. But when I'm operating remotely from my camper to my home, I have to set that down to, it used to be 1, now I can set it down to 0, and that saves a lot of bandwidth. For a situation like we're in right now, this is fine. All right, then the last couple of controls here. The DACs, we talked about that, I'm not going to go over that again. This is how you add a PAN adapter, and it's using a PAN adapter like this that you can use to set your, look at your own signal. There's another control down here called full duplex. You normally want this off. You don't normally want to transmit and receive at the same time. But using a little trick of the trade, if I set my transmit and receive frequencies on the same frequency, let's do 7174. Okay, well, pretend they're the same. I've got this going on here. There we go. Okay, 7174. When I transmit on this frequency, and I have full duplex on, you can see it in the bottom. So I'm going to set my transmit antenna to transverter. We don't have a transverter connected. So that is just transmitting into an open load, which the transverter is spec'd to do. And then I mute this receiver. And when I go to transmit, you can see my transmit signal right here. Hello, test, right? I'm actually transmitting at a few milliwatts. and picking it up on the station receiver on antenna 1. And now I can use this, oops, to fix my transmit audio. Hello, test. Here, let's turn this off. All right, hello, test, hello, test. And if I turn it back on, hello, test. If I go overboard, hello, test. You see how it's gone up on the right? So that's a way that you can use full duplex to look at your own signal, and you can do the record and playback because you can't really hear yourself. So I keep everything muted, record it, and then play it back over and over, record it, play it back. And that's how I can get, you see how my level is reasonably well flat topped here? I don't have a big boomy stuff at the bottom. That's how I did that. Isn't that cool? It is one of the coolest things about the radio. Now,
That's a great use of the transverters then.
it is. So now when you start playing with this radio, if you go out to NM9P, November 9, November Mike 9 Papa, NM9P, that's Ken Wells. Look at his YouTube videos, and he shows you in great detail how to do what I just ran through quickly. He's got some great videos. All right, another thing that exists now is the DVK, which is the digital voice keyer. It works. I haven't used it much. I will tell you it's not mature. People are having trouble with it. So I'll recommend for now just not mess with that. And then
What was that?
DVK down here at the bottom, digital voice keyer.
Oh,
Yeah, so it works, but people have had a lot of problems with it, so I'm not recommending it at the moment. Down here is your station name, and you see mine is that clever, not Len's real station name. That's what you'll use to log in with, and that's what Mark will set in your allowed stations file. So you can change that just by keying over it. What it will come up with at default is your radio name. And I would tend to leave it at that, but if you want to put your call sign or name or anything else in there, you're welcome to do that. All right. There's two more things that I'm not going to get into, but I'm just going to show you very quickly. Maybe I won't. Now, they're not going to come up right now. I'll just tell you about them very quickly. They're CAT and DAX. And what CAT and DAX let you do are connect your radio to other stuff. And that's a whole thing. So Mark, I think maybe at some point in time, we should probably do something about digital modes. And at that time, we'll talk about how to connect CAT and DAX. In the meantime, if you're having trouble with any of that, you're free to give me a call. Just text me or email me or anything. I'm good on QRZ, and I'll very happily help you get those set up. But it's too much to talk about right now.
So for example, if you want to use WSJTX for the T8, that's the way you do that.
Right. Yep, and then we'll get Simon to help. All right, so if you're troubleshooting, there's the Flex community. If you search for Flex Radio, I have it already here. I am one of the moderators of this forum, so I highly recommend it, obviously. But feel free to ask questions here. What you won't want to ask here are specifics about the club station, but if you have just questions about how Flex works, there's a whole host of people here, myself included, who are happy to help you. And then there's another one called Flex Groups IO, called Flex Radio SmartSDR. and I'm also a moderator on this one. And this came to be because Flex hadn't done one yet. So Al Ludwig created this. And then last year at Hamvention asked me to be a moderator of it. So I was kind of flattered by that. But anyway, and then Mark and myself, you know, just anytime you want to talk about Flex and get something going with Flex, I'm always happy. So give me a shout.
Good place for those questions, for the station, our station itself would be the, clubs, groups.io channel.
Right. Right. Yes.
The settings that you just took us through in the upper left corner, if you were to save profile now, would all of those settings that you just made go into that profile?
No. No. Yeah. This is another one that this is for the whole radio. Yeah. Sadly, I think Flex really dropped the ball on the profiles, but okay. Any other questions?
So is it gonna be a problem for us?
Is what a problem?
There's some things we can't change that could be on there that's.
Oh. No, no. No, these are things, you know, so like the region is USA and things like that. Somebody could goof things up. Mark and I would have to put them back. So we're asking you not to go in there and change those things, but we'll just keep that on the honor system. Yeah.
Somewhat tech, but so I know a little bit about so basically what I understand about SDRs is when you sample like the input signal.
Yeah.
You lose like the ability to actually the DB. It's like a DBFS. From what I've like.
That's where the
ADC
bit
works.
size comes in.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
how does it actually give you DBM?
Yeah.
How does it?
Yeah. How does it get like you need to convert from DBM to DBM?
Oh, yeah.
DBM,
Yeah.
So how do they do that?
Oh, well, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's proprietary,
Oh.
but
So yeah. Not like some like what they're reporting. That's actually
yeah,
okay. That's
yeah, and it's
like a spectrum analyzer.
and it's calibrated. So
open PFS to DBM. I think there is some calibration that you have to.
yeah,
Based on the noise, something I don't actually know.
yeah. Well, and taking the bandwidth into account and all that kind of stuff. So one of the things that Tim Ellison from Flex has talked about is the fact that the spectrum analyzer, which is the pan adapter, is actually calibrated, and you can use it as an instrument. Now, I'd be careful with that statement because there's calibration and there's calibration, right? So I don't think you're to the nearest dB, but you're reasonably close enough that certainly for ham usage, I mean, wow, it's good.
Yeah, I could just use if I built some, something that generates a signal, I can put that into my Flex in theory with enough attenuation and measure the spectrum from that. Is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And just connect that to your antenna input.
Right. Right. And I would my tendency is not to connect active devices to my antenna. Rather, I'll just use a loop of wire and have I put the radio on a dummy load, so I'm not picking up noise from all over the world, and then put a wire near the dummy load because the dummy load has enough leakage typically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Len.
All right. Thank you all.